Hey, what up, fam? It's your boy Norm, and I would like to welcome you to episode 91 of the Evangelical Norm. And, you know, again, there's so much going on that I want to talk about that it almost gets to the point where I don't want to talk about anything because it's just so jumbled up batch of garbage that is going on um, theologically in this nation and politically and just economically. There's so much that it's so hard to just come up with a topic to think about. But a couple of things that came up today, I feel like I don't have a problem with talking about abortion week after week after week because it's a key issue that is going on in this nation and it's something that needs to be addressed. But this week, as I was thinking about the different things that are going on and just all the stuff that is in the news, in the different news cycles and different, whether it's political or theological podcasts that you listen to, it just seemed like this week, and I'm going to go more political this week just because of things that have gone on and things that I've seen. It just seems like conservatives in our political sphere, and I'm going to say conservatives because it is what politics view as conservative has changed, even in the last 5 years, literally in the last 2 years, since Donald Trump has been president, two and some change. The idea of what is conservative has really changed. And so, so those conservatives in the political realm, whether you want to call it the GOP or not, I know a lot of conservatives who have left the GOP, many of them because of who is our current president. But the GOP, the conservatives in the political sphere, this last week have been a shining example of what it means to completely miss the point. Um, and thinking about on just the simple the issue of abortion. To start off with, uh, we hear so many arguments about why we need to defund Planned Parenthood, and okay, I'll give a little credit where credit is due. It looks like we took about $60,000 off the table for Planned Parenthood. And I say we. I didn't do it. The representatives have done it. Donald Trump. One good thing that he's done. One of the few. So we've taken about 6 million. I don't remember the number. It's a small number in comparison to what they actually get. $500 million. So I think it's about $50 million is what we took, what we missed. It's been a week or two, but the arguments of why is really what I want to talk about. They're still getting tons of money, well over $400 million a year from our government. They make a profit of about $500 million a year, which conveniently up to this point has been what they've been getting from our government. But again, I digress. The reasons why we hear all these things, and I appreciate Lila Rose and Live Action. I appreciate James O'Keefe and the Veritas Project and all these things. These guys, Steven Crowder did a great hidden video thing over the last month. But all these things of the arguments about late term abortion and body parts being sold and not reporting sex trafficking or any of those things, all of those are reasons and they're good things, but they're amazingly beyond missing the point of the simple fact that Planned Parenthood is murdering babies. They're killing children. That should be the foundation that we stand on. We should, again, I'm happy to see any law that can reduce the number of abortions that are done every year. But to have someone that says, I will vote for a law, an 18-week or a heartbeat bill or any of these things, you're ultimately saying that it's okay to kill the baby before that point, whether it's heartbeat or whatever. And granted, a heartbeat bill is going to do a lot because most moms, I calling them moms is hard, but most women who are pregnant don't even know that they're pregnant until around 6 weeks, which is when the heartbeat starts. In a vaginal ultrasound, a heartbeat can be detected. We heard our daughter's heartbeat the first time at just about 6 weeks. So that'll help. But again, you're allowing for those 6 weeks before where it's okay to murder that baby. And that's unacceptable. We need to be out for total abolition of abortion. And the main argument has got to be that they are killing babies, that is a human life. Again, some of the memes that are out there are actually very accurate. I've seen the one multiple times that you can go to prison and pay huge fines for destroying an eagle's egg, but there's literally no penalty for destroying a human child in the womb. There's a serious problem there. And the fact that we're going with all these other arguments, again, it's a great example of completely missing the point. And then a couple other situations that have come up this week that I've read about or listened to. Judge Jeanine Pirro with talking about Representative Ilhan Omar, the fact that she wears a hijab, and that could mean she's against the Constitution. How about the fact that she's made multiple anti-Semitic statements over the last 2 months? Some of them she's actually deleted from her Twitter. Some of them she hasn't. And excuse me. I've been trying not to do that. People have defended her. People have the resolution or the statement that was released and adopted by Congress, the condemnation of hatred or whatever it was. I mean, just a couple months ago, and I'm not defending what Steve King had said or anything. I don't even remember how long ago or anything. The things that Representative Steve King had said, supposedly supporting the alt-right or white supremacy. This man was specifically named in a resolution that was made, was removed from his committee positions, was censured on the Senate floor, because of some things that he said in essentially supporting white supremacy, or at least not condemning white supremacy. Now we have an outright anti-Semitic representative who is absolutely anti-Jew and anti-Israel, who has said horrible things, and rather than treating, again, my thing is consistency in action and so on. So rather than naming her, censuring her, removing her from committees, they give this, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having such a hard time finding words tonight. It might be because it's midnight, and which means it's actually like later. I've lost an hour. I'm lost somewhere. So I keep yawning. Again, rather than removing her from her committees, they put out this resolution that just blanket condemns all hatred, and not just anti-Semitism, but they throw in Islamophobia, which was not an issue. The reason why they did this and they had this vote on this resolution condemning hatred was the specific anti-Semitic statements that she had made. And yet, she's not named, she's not censured, she's not anything. And people actually came to her defense. AOC came to her defense. So, again, and yet, Fox News and people are going after the fact that she wears a hijab, the fact that she is a Muslim. It's all these things. Again, it's a phenomenal example of absolutely missing the point. We mentioned AOC. We might as well get to the point on her. People are... I don't think she's the brightest woman in the world, at least not as far as common sense. Obviously, she's an intelligent woman. She graduated from... I can't remember, I read the thing not too long ago, that she graduated cum laude from some college, whatever college she went to, whatever university she went to. Graduated with honors. She's done some amazing things, apparently, academically. So she's not stupid, but she's said some dumb things. 3 chambers of Congress, 3 chambers of government, not naming them accurately. She called it the Senate and the House and the executive branch, and completely left out the judicial branch, and turned the legislative branch into 2 branches, and 2 chambers is what she called them. So she said some really dumb stuff. She made comments about we're in charge and we're running things, in which obviously she doesn't understand that she's a representative. She works for her constituents. She's not running anything. But these are the things that the right is condemning, and they're parading out that, well, she's not smart, she's not this, she does this, and she says this, and so on. How about we just come back to the fact that she's a socialist? Admittedly so. And the fact that we have witnessed over and over and over and over again the fact that socialism never works. Every country that has tried to embrace socialism has fallen. The politicians get wealthy and powerful, and the people are crushed. So let's just stop talking about the stupid things that she says and so on, and let's just continue to focus on the fact that she's a socialist. Bernie Sanders too. And the same thing. It's with the president. It's like there's so many things, and there's potential of campaign fraud or finance fraud and all kinds of other things. But the fact that he just keeps pointing out no collusion, no collusion, no collusion. Okay, so again, it's the whole act of misdirection and missing the point. I don't think that Mueller's investigation is completely about collusion. There's so many other aspects of what has happened, and avenue and threads that have come through this wacky campaign cycle of 2016 and into the presidency, and just insanity. There's so many things that are there, but the art that the GOP and the conservatives in government have of completely, totally missing the point. They continue to come back to this whole issue of collusion and witch hunt and so on. And I don't know that that's actually the core of what investigation is going on. And so here again, we come back to this thing. Where do we stand as what do we do when we come across these issues? And I've said it before, and I'll continue to beat the dead horse. Is we have got to maintain a consistent level of action, a consistent worldview on both sides. If we are going to condemn the Democrats for something that they have done, then we rightly need to condemn Republicans when they do the same thing. And it happens over and over and over again. And we get this, and it goes both ways, and Christians it happens with Christians on both sides of the aisle. And yeah, I'm a guy that will admit that there are some believing Christians on the other side of the aisle. There are some believing Christians that, believe it or not, are Democrat and embrace some of the Democrat platform, but would reject other things like abortion and so on, but are willing to embrace the welfare state and stuff like that. Whereas those of us on the other side reject those things. But on both sides, we see that, it's the whole issue. We'll use adultery as an example. When Clinton had his affair with Lewinsky, the right lost its mind. This is horrible. This is bad. We cannot have an adulterer in the White House, and a liar and a cheat, and so on. And those on the left were defending it. Oh, it was just a whatever, an act of oral sex, and they use the crass terminology that I don't want to use. In the Oval Office, it's not that bad. He can still continue to run the country. But then we get to the flip side. We have a candidate who is an admitted, almost celebrates his adultery when he wrote about it in his book. Made comments about grabbing women by their genitalia and so on. And we saw the complete opposite. The left lost their mind, and literally huge name leaders in the evangelical movement defended this man. Same people who condemned Bill Clinton for what he did defended Donald Trump and still continued to maintain that, oh, he's a Christian, and the heretic Paula White led him to the Lord, and we know that he is, even though he stood on a stage at the Family Values Summit or whatever it is, and said, I don't think I've done anything bad, and I don't think I need to ask for forgiveness. I just fix it and move on. This is a man who has admittedly basically stated that he is not a Christian in any way, but yet those on the right, and I won't say we because I never did, want to defend this guy. And you hear the same things, and you heard it on both sides. We're not voting for a pastor in chief, and you heard the same things when Clinton went through his thing. Oh, well, he's not the pastor in chief. His personal life is his personal life, and da 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 da. A complete total lack of consistency. But as Christians, we need to maintain that. But we need to look for the main issue. We need to not let ourselves get dragged off into the weeds by arguments about body parts and stuff like that. We have to come back to the core issue that these are human lives that are being snuffed out. We got to come back to the core issue that these are representatives that don't feel like Israel has the right to exist. This is a representative that wants to introduce socialism, which is a failing economic system and political system, into this nation when we know that it will fail. And quit looking at the straggling or the tangled weave of secondary issues and arguments, and go for the main issue. All the time we should be focusing on the main issue and being consistent in that, and letting our beliefs, our belief in the gospel, lead our worldview. And I mean, we can apply that to so many different things. The split that seems to be happening in evangelicalism over racial discord and racial disharmony, I guess. We can come back to the central issue on that is, who are we in Christ? And again, I'm not asking any of my black brothers and sisters to deny their ethnicity, but I'm saying that it has to come secondary to who they are in Christ, and so that's the core issue. And yeah, there are other things. There's some issues of racism that are still happening today, and there are issues of churches turning a blind eye to that. There are issues of sexual impropriety or sexual immorality or sexual sin in the church among leaders that has obviously been covered up and so on. And but again, we're missing the point on that in looking at just where the cover-ups came from and this and that. And I mean, we are skilled in missing the point in Christianity as well. And again, it has to always come back to the gospel. Who are we in Christ? Is it sin? Not, that's the bottom line. We need to be calling out sin when sin happens. So when there is sexual abuse or anything like that, we need to ignore everything else except for the fact that this is sin. The men who have done it need to be given church discipline, declared disqualified, put in jail if necessary, and so on. And then we need to move forward in the gospel and say we extend grace to the greater denomination, because again, it's not, leaders who have failed need to be removed, but the theology and the core of those denominations, whether it be SBC or PCA or whatever, need to continue to move on. We need to address the sin where it is, remove the leaders that need to be removed, and again, whether they need to go to jail or not, that's something that has to happen. But we need to not make it about the entire group and make it about the individuals who have failed, if that makes sense. And that way we need to be laser focused on these things. We need to be focused in on who we are in Christ, and how does that help us to, again, as Christians, we should be grieved by racial discord, but that's not again, we need to be preaching the gospel and using that to say, how do we make change? How do we become a catalyst for change and making this happen? But the heart change should be the initial place where that comes from, is the preaching of the gospel. So none of this is effective at all. None of it, any of it is effective. Even the political stuff, none of it is effective without the preaching of the gospel. We're never going to see hearts change. We're never going to see abortion end. We're never going to see racism end until the gospel is preached and letting hearts be changed because of that. And I guess that's that. And I'll leave it there for this week. I think I've said a lot, and maybe like some politicians, maybe I didn't say anything. But I'm hoping that all made sense to you. Again, daylight savings time. I'm an hour off in what I'm supposed to be doing, and I really should be going to bed. So I'm going to do that here pretty quick. So thanks for listening. Again, leave some comments, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm sure there are tons of you out there, out of all 43 subscribers, that think I'm dead wrong. And let me know, and we'll talk. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong if I can truly be showed that I'm wrong. And so, and again, that's part of the Christian lifestyle, is being willing to say, yeah, I whiffed it on that one. I'm completely wrong. So, thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. And as always, preach the gospel at all times. Use words, they're necessary. And until next week, Soli Deo Gloria.